Emma had taken the same path to the creek every morning since she was 8 years old. 20 years later, it was her only escape from the suffocating routine of ranch life and the constant pressure from her father to marry someone suitable, someone who understood their world. The old rancher meant well, but he couldn't see that his daughter was drowning in a life she'd never chosen. That morning, carrying her sketchbook and charcoal, she rounded the bend where the willows hung low over the water and stopped dead in her tracks. A man stood waist-deep in the creek, his back to her, washing away what looked like days of trail dust. His clothes hung on a nearby branch, his horse grazing quietly in the meadow beyond. Emma's face flushed hot with embarrassment. She should leave, should turn around immediately, and pretend she'd never seen anything. She took a silent step backward, but a twig snapped under her boot. He turned, water streaming down his shoulders, and their eyes met. For a moment, neither spoke. He didn't scramble to cover himself or shout at her to leave. Instead, something passed across his face that looked almost like recognition, though they'd never met. He was young, maybe 30, with dark hair plastered to his forehead and eyes the color of creek stones. A long scar traced his collarbone, and his hands bore the calluses of hard work. "I should go," Emma stammered, clutching her sketchbook to her chest, but her feet wouldn't move. There was something about the way he looked at her, not with the crude interest she'd experienced from ranch hands, or the calculating assessment of suitors her father invited to dinner. He looked at her like she was a person, not a problem to be solved. "What's your name?" he asked quietly, his voice carrying easily across the water. It wasn't a demand or an intrusion. It was an invitation, a question that somehow felt like it meant more than just asking for a name. "Emma," she heard herself say. "Emma Thornton. My father owns the ranch beyond those hills." He nodded slowly, as if her name confirmed something he'd already suspected. "I'm Daniel Morgan. I've been traveling for 3 months, looking for a place that felt like it might be home." He paused, water rippling around him. "I think I just found it." Something shifted in that moment, something Emma couldn't quite name. She should have been scandalized, should have run back to tell her father about the trespasser. Instead, she found herself sitting on the bank, opening her sketchbook while he finished bathing and dressed behind the willows. When he emerged, he sat beside her, watching as she sketched the curve of the creek, the play of morning light on water. They talked for hours. He told her about losing his family's farm to drought, about the crushing weight of trying to hold on to something that was already gone. She told him about feeling trapped by expectations, about dreams of seeing the world beyond the fence lines. For the first time in her life, Emma felt seen, understood, heard when her father met Daniel 3 days later. After he'd shown up at the ranch asking for work, the old rancher saw something in the young man that he recognized: integrity, determination, and the way he looked at Emma. Like she hung the moon and stars, exactly the way her father had once looked at her mother. 6 months later, when Emma walked down the aisle in her mother's lace dress, she caught Daniel's eye and remembered that morning at the creek, the moment when a chance encounter became fate. Sometimes the most improper moments lead to the most proper endings. And sometimes love finds you when you're brave enough to stay instead of running away.